Hey there, Stampers! Welcome to Simple Card Sunday. This is the card that we have this week. It's a pretty simple card with some squares and then a nice little banner for your greeting. So let's get started. For this card, you're going to need a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and this measures 5.5 by 8.5, and we're going to fold that in half. Okay, you're going to need a piece of Strawberry Slush cardstock, which measures 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And another piece of Whisper White cardstock, which measures 3 3/4 by 5, and then a strip of cardstock. This one I used Pink Pirouette, and it just measures 1 inch by just over 3 3/4. Okay, so the other thing that you're going to need is some Strawberry Slush ink and then a scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock. So let's get started. The stamp sets that I'm using today are the Positively Chevron background stamp and the Remembering Your Birthday set, and I'm using this particular greeting from that set right here. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is ink up the Positively Chevron stamp with some Strawberry Slush ink. And I don't need the whole stamp for this, so I'm just going to ink up part of it. Set my ink pad aside, and then I'm going to go ahead and just stamp that down. Okay, just like that. And you end up with an image like that. So the next thing I'm going to do is make the squares on the card, which you'll find right here. So I cut them with my paper trimmer. The reason why I did that rather than punching it is because I wanted my little chevrons to line up. And if you punch it, you aren't going to get them. It's harder to get them to line up. I'm not going to say you can't do it, but it's harder to. So I'm just going to trim a little bit off the top there. Okay, so I want my squares to be 1 1/4 by 1 1/4. Okay, trim it off the side here too. Alright, so there's 1 and 2, and then I'm just going to cut the bottom square, and again I want it to line up as best as I can, so I'm going to kind of try and cut it the same way I cut the top ones. I would say if you're doing this at home, I would make sure that you stamp right to the edge of your paper so it's easier to line up. Okay, so there is my 3 squares. I actually ended up cutting 4 just because of the way I was holding my paper cutter, but I only need 3 for this card. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my Strawberry Slush sponge, and I'm going to bring my ink back, and I'm just going to sponge around the edges of these little pieces. I just found it just seemed to finish it off. So again, with my sponges, you'll see that I have a piece of cardstock punched, and I have the name of the ink, and it's just stapled to the top of my sponge. Remember that our sponges come in rounds, and I cut mine into 8s, so I have a sponge for each color. Alright, so just gently sponge around the edges, and just keep these kind of in order of how you're going to have them on your card. Makes it a little easier when you're putting your card together at the end. Alright, so we have something that looks like that. And the next thing I'm going to do is bring in my birthday stamp, or my sentiment, which for our purposes is birthday. Okay, and I'm going to use my Strawberry Slush ink again, and I'm just going to ink up my stamp and stamp it on. And I'm not too worried about where exactly I stamp it. I'm going to do some trimming on the end to make it into a banner shape. And then this end gets covered up with one of my squares, so it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. I'm going to move my stamp out of the way. I'm going to bring in my card pieces again, and I'm going to start assembling. So I'm going to make this into a banner. To do that, I'm going to bring in my little snips, and I'm going to actually snip a little bit off the end here. And then to make a banner piece, I like to cut up the middle, and then I go from the corner to the top of my cut, and then again from the corner to the top of my cut. So I end up with a little banner piece that looks like this. Okay, And that's going to just go on my card nicely right there. I'm just going to lay it on before I start sticking, just to make sure that I have everything spaced right. So if I need to turn my banner a little smaller, I can do that. So it's going to go on my card like that. I'll grab my snail and I'm going to start by sticking my banner on. But before I do that, I'm just going to curl the edges. You can see I'm using a scrap piece. I like to curl the ends so they kind of will stick up just a little bit on my card. I think it makes your banner look a little bit more realistic when you do that. Okay, so we'll stick that down like that, and then we'll go ahead and stick down our squares. So we have one, and I'm just making sure that I line up the chevron pattern with my squares here. 2 and 3. Okay, so I've got my 3 squares, and I've got my banner, which is kind of crooked. I'm just going to move that up just a touch, like so. Okay, so then this piece is going to get stuck on the Strawberry Slush piece, like so. And it's just a touch bigger, this Strawberry Slush piece, than the white piece. You just get a little bit of an edge around it. And then this is going to get stuck on my Whisper White card base, like so. Alright, so there we go. There's our simple card. I'm going to pull back my original for you to have a look. So you can see that some of my chevrons are sparkly. So there's 2 ways that you could achieve this, and you'll get a little bit different look each way. On my card, I used the dazzling details, and I just did every second chevron with the dazzling details. So just like this, you just want to squeeze a little bit out, and you just follow that chevron. This is why I wanted them to line up, so that I could do this, and it would be like a little chevron stripe going all the way across the card. Okay, so I would just continue on like this with the whole thing. Like I said, every second chevron, so you can see that on my card there. The other way that you could do this is with a 2-way glue pen. You could just go over the chevron, and then you could sprinkle some Dazzling Details glitter on it, or Dazzling Diamonds glitter on it, sorry. You would get a very similar effect. So whichever way you find easier. So that's our card for today. I'm going to take this wet one and put it aside so I don't get my hand in it. So pretty simple. You're going to do your 3 squares, then a cute little banner, and you're good to go. So remember to check my blog, because I will have a couple other cards done with this same design. And if you like what you see and you're Canadian and you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. So contact me and we can get started on your creative journey today. Thanks and have a great day.